My name's Lincoln Pugel.
Okay, Lincoln, will you raise your right hand?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, Lincoln, you're gonna have to raise that microphone, or you can take it off if you want to. It's
Okay.
wireless, so you can take it off if you want. It might be better for you.
This is loud when I touch it. I'm just going to leave it there.
Okay, talk into it.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Lincoln, would you describe the process for a proposed site development and your role as city engineer in that process?
So for any development that's within city limits, I get the proposed development plan at the time of the application for a major development. And the things that I'm looking at are going to be stormwater controls. Specifically, if you're going to increase the impervious surface of an area, this being an example, it's all open, allows for rainwater to absorb into the ground. Anything like a roof or a street or a sidewalk or a parking lot that's going to restrict that water from soaking in the ground has to be accounted for by a licensed engineer in some kind of a stormwater plan. And what that would look like is, since that water can't go in the ground, where is it going to go? You have to channel that with conveyance structures into some kind of facility that's going to retain that, so that it does not increase the peak flow off the site. Our development manual specifies that clearly. We use the 10-year 24-hour storm event in that design, and you do a 100-year storm check on that design to make sure that none of your structures are going to be overwhelmed by that much water. That's what we do at the preliminary, and then once the plan is finalized and they get into construction, our engineering section does inspections on the site. And this is to make sure that during construction, they're not overwhelming the structures around the construction site with sediment. We have our own inspectors that go out weekly or after every rainfall to make sure that they're in compliance with their pre-approved plan of how they'll handle stormwater during construction. And then in the case of a built BMP like a retention basin, we have an agreement that they fill out and sign for the maintenance of that in perpetuity.
As part of your review of the proposed site development, do you take into consideration whether the city of Madisonville has adequate sewage facilities to handle the additional flow?
Yes, and to do that, we actually have the site plan sent out to all of the utilities, so electric, sewer, water, transportation. They all get copies of the plan to determine what the dumpster requirement is going to be, if they can get a truck in there, if there's facilities that are going to support that. There's sewer nearby that can handle additional flows, water nearby that can handle additional flows. If there's not, then we get with the developer and let them know what the requirement is to extend the line, upsize the line, or include in their plan what needs to be done to make those facilities adequate for the development.
Before the engineering department makes a recommendation as to whether or not to approve the proposed site development, do you also take into consideration the impact of the increase in traffic and the ability to ingress and egress to and from the proposed development?
That one is not as strenuous as say, like the other utilities. We do have, as has been cited, I think Mr. Davis mentioned, we require new streets to meet a 24-foot paved width. The purpose for that, you figure about 8 feet per lane. That allows you to have on-street parking on one side of the road and still have two-way traffic existing. As been noted, this street is it's 20 feet wide, and that doesn't allow on-street parking. So in cases like that, we would prohibit on-street parking for that road. But as far as a traffic study and that kind of thing, we've done that twice since I've been here. It's not standard to require every developer to do that, but as has been noted, if that's something that gets raised as a concern by either the city council or the planning commission, that is something that we've added as a requirement, that a traffic study be done to make sure that people can get in and out, and then what developments would be required if there are issues there.
Is the proposed site development plan reviewed by the fire department for assurances that it can service the property? You're gonna have to speak up here.
Okay. I'll defer to Mandy on that one.
That's fine. If you don't know, that's fine.
Yes, that does. It does get to, sent to fire department and 911 services.
Does 911 and the fire department respond when there is a request for a zoning change? Did the fire department or 911 file anything, yes or no, or for or against, filed with the planning commission as part of its process? No. It'd be part of the site development plan.
Correct.
Anybody else have any questions of Lincoln?
One of the, in the comprehensive plan, one of the things that it points out in land use is just to protect the integrity of wetlands, floodplains, and other natural resources by limiting development in those areas. Do you think this would be a development area that would be of concern, and that may be why we've kind of adjusted this? I know we talked a little bit about the elevation of said property and stuff, and I mean, is that a concern a little bit of this said property?
So the property just downstream of this one, and you can see it on the map, it's just to the west of this lot, where those trees go up the center of it, that's floodplain.
I can't hear you.
The site development plan would have to assure that there would not be stormwater contribution to potential flooding downstream.
Right, yeah, our requirement is very clear. And typically, I'll tell you, when these stormwater plans come in, the design for that detention basin usually makes the flooding situation better. And that's right. It has to show what happens to the other 5 acres. I mean, even if that's leaving it open, which, I mean, that's not much of a plan, but it does have to show on there.
Okay. And then also, another question about the road that would come off of Browning into this development. Would this end up being a city road, or is this going to be a private road? Is there anything about how that would be handled?
So I had a brief conversation with Mr. Hall in preparation for, I think, the original application, and one of the questions he asked was, what are our requirements for a city road, so that when he builds this, which under this plan is intended to be a private road, could he build it to city standards so that in the future it could be dedicated as a city street? And I told him, I have no issues giving you the requirements for what a city road has to be, 24 feet wide, and then the base requirements and everything else.
Any other questions from the council? Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
I do have one other question that would go to Mandy, if I could.
Sure.
With this, with it being a private road that would be first done right now, it would not allow further subdividing of this property because it would not come off of a city street. If this entrance was to then become a city street, would that then open it for that property for subdivision?
Yes, it would.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else on behalf of the city that would like to speak concerning the application?
I'd like to actually ask Jason McKnight if he could address the issues of traffic flow that in other similarly situated apartment complexes that we have in the city historically.
Mr. McKnight, would you please raise your hand?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Well, concerns having been raised regarding the effect on traffic flow and congestion, the anxieties about that, we have similarly situated restricted ingress and egress to apartment complexes with Jamestown, Brentwood, which is out in that same area, north off of the end of Wyman, north end of Wyman Drive.
Yes.
The Madisonville apartments, Sunrise or East Side apartments off Sunrise Road or Drive or what on the east side.
Yes, sir.
We mentioned Pennyroyal Park Apartments. Hidden Hills is another one, and Cross Creek. Those have similar potential issues that we would have some history with. What is our history? Have we noted, be safety issues or traffic congestions that were notable chronically?
Sir, in my career here, which is about 17 years, I've been to all of those apartment complexes at one point or another. I have not seen any issues with the single entrance or exit from those facilities that would go into a law enforcement capacity for that matter. Obviously, the fire department, I can't speak for them, but they drive bigger vehicles. But for us, with the smaller patrol cars, we've never had any issues as far as providing services to them with a lack of room, so to speak.
Any council member have a question?
In the comprehensive plan, it does talk about preserve the functionality of the roadway network by ensuring new development does not overburden the system. Would you consider this maybe overburdening being on Browning Street and having extra calls on Browning Street?
No, sir. I'm familiar with Browning Street, and of course you have other streets. I believe, if you've got apartment complexes on the other side, I believe Jamestown was mentioned, and the newly constructed Wyman construction, of course. But you have Cherry Street, you have Silkwood that actually comes on to Browning as well. And I would consider those fairly narrow, especially when you consider there's vehicles parked there. But again, even in those areas, coming through on those streets, even if we were responding to those streets or Browning or anywhere in there, we generally get where we need to go pretty easily. And as far as overburdening us as far as a manpower or resource, it hasn't happened yet, sir.
I know Council Member Stevenson addressed a fire truck's about 10 feet, so 10 and 7, you get 17, and 18, you're getting 6 inches on each side. So there is some concern of fire department especially, and I know you guys do a great job with call response times, but with fire department response times about 5 minutes, 4 and some change. If there's a car parked on the street, that's a big concern.
I'll make a motion that I've got here somewhere that we adjourn to deliberate the testimony we've heard. You gave me a cheat sheet here, but KRS, whatever it is. Forgive me. Should have had that on top.
While Frank is looking for his motion, assuming it passes, I do want to assure the members of the public that no vote is taken in the closed session. Any votes must be taken in open hearing. They have the right to deliberate and then make a motion to return to open session. And whatever action the council takes will be done here. You're welcome to stay around. I have no idea of how long the deliberations will take, but you're welcome to stay to see what action the council actually does. We will take action tonight before we adjourn.
Now, I hereby move that the Madisonville City Council retire into closed session pursuant to KRS 61.810 subsection 1J as a quasi-judicial body and pursuant to the Attorney General opinion OAG 83-446 to deliberate on the application filed with the Planning Commission for the purpose of making findings of fact, conclusions of law, and recommendations thereof.
Roll call, please.
Motion and second is made. Roll call.
Misty Cavanaugh,
Yes.
Tony Space,
Yes.
Adam Townsend,
Yes.
Larry Knopfinger,
Yes.
Frank Stevenson,
Yes.
Chad Mincer,
Yes.
The people that have spoken tonight, I would hope that you have the opportunity and the time to stay. There is always a chance that the city council may have questions that come up during deliberation that we need additional information or questions to ask. If there are such additional questions or information, it will have to be done out here in open session again. So I know you may have other plans, but hopefully there won't be any additional questions of you, but I would appreciate it if you could stay around just in case they do come up. All right, we'll move into closed session back here.
Okay. I move that the Madisonville City Council find that zoning map amendment request number MAD-2024-01 filed by Joe Hall on behalf of Cutting Edge Landscaping LLC, DBA Cutting Edge Enterprises, for a change in the zoning classification for a 10.776 acre tract identified as PVA parcel M-21-3-3 from medium density residential to high density residential to be approved on the grounds that the proposed map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan and the future land use map, which lists the property as multifamily, and that the Madisonville City Attorney be authorized to direct and to prepare proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law in support of the foregoing based upon the evidence presented at the hearing for consideration and adoption by the City Council at the next City Council meeting.
Is there a second to the motion?
Speak in the microphone.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Roll call.
Frank Stevenson.
Yes.
Sorry, I got your microphone. Larry Knopfinger.
Yes.
Misty Cavanaugh.
No.
Tony Space.
Yes.
Adam Townsend.
No.
Chad Minzer.
No.
I have a tie.
Motion does not pass. Are there any other motions for consideration?
I'll make the motion that although the comprehensive plan and future land use map identify the property as multifamily, neither designates whether the property is medium density residential or high density residential. Given the ambiguity, I move that the council find that that it is unable to determine whether the proposed map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan and future land use map. I further move that the council find that the evidence presented at the hearing failed to establish that the existing zoning classification for the property is inappropriate and that the proposed zoning classification is appropriate, and that there have not been major changes of economic, physical, or social nature within the area involved which were not anticipated in the adoptive comprehensive plan and which have substantially altered the basic character of such area, and that the city Madisonville attorney be directed to prepare proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law in support of foregoing based upon the evidence presented at the hearing for consideration and adoption of the City Council at the next City Council meeting.
We have a motion. Is there a second to the motion?
I second the motion.
Any discussion?
I'm bemused by the latter part of your motion in that it references considerations that are not in play in accordance with the whole process that were involved here about changes in character and so forth. I don't understand it.
Any other comment? Roll call vote.
Chad Minzer.
Yes.
Misty Cavanaugh.
Yes.
Frank Stevenson.
No.
Tony Space.
No.
Adam Townsend.
Yes.
Larry Knopfinger.
No.
That motion doesn't carry either. The legal effect of both motions having failed to pass is that since at least a majority of the City Council failed to override the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission denying the application will be denied.
Is there a motion for adjournment?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.